Welcome to the Calmer Mom podcast, where we go from conception through pregnancy, birth, and beyond to help you be the mom your kids are actually asking for. Pregnancy, birth, and motherhood aren't easy, but they don't have to be so hard. You're not alone in this journey. I'm Michelle Noble, creator of the Calmer Mom Project. Mama, I've been there, and I've got your back. So let's begin. Welcome, mamas, back to the Calmer Mom podcast. I'm Michelle Noble. I'm the Calmer Mom coach and creator of the Calmer Mom program, or Calmer Mom project. I don't even know the name of my own stuff today. It's been that kind of day. It's that crazy. And I am here with a very special guest. I have so much gratitude for him. He has gifted me so much in my life, so much change. I'm so honored for him to be here, Mr. John motherfucking Ashford.
I love it.
John is an Access Consciousness certified facilitator, and I think you're probably some other, Access Consciousness specialties along with that. I know you're amazing working with bodies and with money and with business and everything. And also, John has 3 grown children. He has his own amazing journey that he has taken in his life, and he works in with kids in the juvenile justice system in Portland. So John, I am so glad you're here. And you said, with that introduction, tell me a little bit more about claiming the energy of John motherfucking Ashford.
It's actually knowing who you are. And I mean, and that voice, when I hear my name, when I say I'm John motherfucking Ashford, it's my Samuel L. Jackson voice of really being smooth and solid at the same time. And I'm finally on a journey of knowing and understanding self. And I start saying that because of another friend of mine, I heard my friend say it, and it was just it's such confidence that nothing can really move you. And it's that I'm getting to the point that I'm always in choice. And I realize that I am source. I am source, part of the universe. I'm source, part of the creator. I'm source, part of God. I am source. And once you get there, you realize that everything becomes really, truly magical because you are actually steering your ship with help of beings from around the universe, if you choose to.
It's one of the things I love that you've talked about is actually being willing to receive from beings of light, ancestors, entities. And I know one of the things I see a ton when I'm looking at with working with moms and looking at the mothers and pregnancy Facebook groups and things like that is this sense of being alone, this loneliness in this journey.
You're never alone.
And you're never alone.
We're never alone. That's a misnomer. We're never alone.
Yeah.
We just haven't lowered our barriers and extended out far enough to realize that it's crowded and there's a lot of people cheering for us. Even the worst person, there's a lot of people still cheering for them.
It's just a willingness to hear the cheers, right?
Yeah.
It's we're walking around with our volume, the volume on our on our cheers and receiving button just turned off.
Yeah.
When you're on that thing, when you're on a Zoom and you're like, God damn it, my volume, my audio isn't working, and then I can't hear you, and you suddenly realize that it's actually that you actually haven't turned the volume on your computer. You're thinking the other person isn't talking and is all screwed up, and then you're like, oh shit, it's my button.
Yes.
My bad.
That happened to us earlier.
I know, right? So it's So actually the universe has my back. Actually, the angels are there for me every moment of the day. There are so many things and people and beings with and without bodies who would like to contribute, and I just have my mute button on. Oops, my bad.
Yes. You take the mute button off and ask for help, and they'll come flowing in like mad people. Here I am.
Yeah. Wow. And so actually that's cool because look at how, if we've been walking around with our mute button on, imagining that we're alone, we've become used to that as a reality.
Yes.
And then you hit that button, you get an inkling, you hit that button, and suddenly the volume just goes up. And it's this volume of adoration and support, but it is so different than what you may have become used to.
Yes.
Like, would you be willing to be in the discomfort of actually having that level of support?
Yeah.
And I know I learned from, there's another access consciousness facilitator, Shannon O'Hara, who's amazing. I totally recommend people check her out. But I took a class with her, and she was talking about an exercise of just like, lay in bed, relax, let your body relax into the bed, and allow all of these entities and beings that would love to support you to touch your body and relax and just receive that. And I will tell you that it is, for me, it was so uncomfortable the first few times I did it. And it still can be.
Yeah.
Kind of exquisite as well, but also very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But discomfort is just temporary. Think of it that way.
Yeah, like when you get in a hot tub, that there's that first little bit where you're like,
exactly.
whoa.
That first little second, it gets really kind of awkward. But if you allow it to, if you allow the seconds to pass, then it becomes very comfortable.
So I know we're going to talk about go some crazy places today, John, because I know we always do. And I'm going to invite our listeners to just be willing to go, just go on that journey. Just, stay with it. Some of it might be uncomfortable. Some of it you might be like, some of it might be confusing, and some of it might be as if you are hearing something that you have always known, but nobody told you that it was okay to know that. So, John, you were talking about how when you were growing up, you were really aware of and turned on by this kind of like magic of Jesus, and the magic of going to see Star Wars with your dad, and the magic of the Jedi, and the potency and power of Darth Vader. And you also mentioned how your mom would ask, like, John, you got to come back to the middle. And I wonder if you were talking to someone who was just starting out, maybe they're pregnant for the first time, or their partner is pregnant for the first time, they're looking at this relationship with this being that's just starting out, like, what would you say to them about like the allowing their kids to be that magic, or what what do you know? Tell me more about what you know about that. You've got 3 kids, and
So
you work with kids.
One of the things is, and I mentioned this book that I'm reading called The Architects of Existence by Teresa N. Washington. And the reason I thought this was kind of funny, you asked, is sitting right next to me, because I've been reading it quite often. It's talking about the power of the universal womb, and what we get from the universe, and what moms offer. And then this Yoruba explanation, West African explanation, the explanation of is when child is before the child enters the womb, the communication between whoever's creating the child, it's a first established oneness that occurs. And they were talking about this in ceremonies, and how men don't have that and women do. With my 3 children, it was sacred. Every pregnancy was sacred. I was in the room with every child being born, because something in me knew that there was something that was sacred. When I mean sacred, I'm not talking about like church shit. What I'm talking about, there's something magical being established, and it's an opportunity to connect to everything with them and allow them to be their independent being. And if the womb doesn't get murky and clouded by this reality and the projections to it, this child will become healthy. Now, they will bump their knees, scrape their knees, make mistakes. I'm not saying they're going to be perfect, but what happens, they'll have a peace of mind, or peace that I'm not saying there won't be difficulties, but the child will know. That's it. There's a knowing from when you honor the womb. And the father is the first example to give that to that child. And because I teach domestic violence classes here in Portland, I realized that a lot of the men that I work with did not have that established in the beginning. So they're always off kilter until that's reestablished. if
They're
that is
always
established.
okay, they're always off kilter until that's reestablished. Can you say a little
Yes,
more about that?
because it's like, okay, TMI. Okay, I hope this doesn't gross somebody out. Well, if I'm used thinking about because some surgery stuff I learned. So here's something I share. Okay, constipation is because there's not enough water in the digestive system. There's some other things, but at the end of the day, more water, less constipation. Okay, I must connect this. Men, yeah, absolutely. Men who don't have enough water at the beginning with mom are always searching for water, but they don't know what it is. That's the connection of the womb with that child. And it's not about money. It's about who you choose to be. And what I
Wow.
mean who you choose to be as the parent, as the mom and the father. And there is a magic of the womb that once that happens, you can tell individuals who have it and individuals who don't. And I can tell through my male friends all the time. And it's just not only men, also women. There's a clash because there's not the honoring of the womb.
So are you talking about both? It seems like you're talking about both, perhaps. The honoring of the womb as a creative and generative space in and of itself, and then also the
Yes.
honoring of the child as being
The result.
being a sacred being in and of
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Fucking absolutely. And the situation of it is that I don't care. And a lot of people think if I throw money at it, it's not about that. It's the energy that's thrown at it. See, that's where we got things off kilter that I'm beginning to realize in my world now is that there, this is going to make some of my brothers upset. There is a creative factor with women and child, with woman and child, that's godlike. And I think at the heart of it, some men are jealous of that because they realize they are an additive. They're the salad dressing to the salad, but they're not the lettuce, cucumbers, or the carrots, baby. They're just the
Well, I
salad
would say
dressing.
they are the catalyst as well.
Yes, but the entire system is dependent on how healthy the mom is. Because if a mom gets pregnant and she goes through any type of trauma or anything like that, the baby will hold on to that vibration. And we don't understand that as a people on planet Earth, or we would be treating women totally different.
Yeah, true story.
I mean, think about how many times as a probation officer, my kid, like, here's the piece about it. My kids, and once you model that behavior for your children, see, I'm not worried about my daughters getting caught up with an abuser in a relationship. And people are like, well, why would you say that, John? There's so many. Because at the very beginning, between their mom, their plus mom, Tori, and myself, they've been given tools along the way to be present, that they don't have to worry about that abuser because it didn't happen in the home. So that wasn't something they were born with. There was no, my daughters, I think I might have spanked my daughter once or twice, but there was
Did it
no,
work?
yeah. I mean, none of my kids been to jail.
Yeah.
None of them have committed any heinous crimes. Their relationships, and I'll say this, I hope my youngest daughter doesn't hear this, but if she does, oh well. So she went out with a guy that she really liked. And in the process of that, he was kind of abusive, and it lasted all about maybe a month. And it wasn't abusive like physically, but the way he spoke to her was speaking down. Well, she never had that from her dad. And she never saw that with her brother. And she never saw that from her grandfather. So she was lucky, or chose a situation this lifetime that she had an example of what it is to be cared for, and not physically cared for, but emotionally and energetically cared for. And that translates, like, when you finally meet somebody, you're like, this is not familiar with me. I'm not going to stay with this.
Mm. Yeah,
See,
it reminds me of that thing where, like, it's as if we have a vibration or a resonance to certain things, and we pull those things in. And if
yes,
in the womb, in their early life, if that resonance with an abusive or a dismissive or a diminishing energy is never established, that child won't gravitate or pull it in. So, like with your daughter, she was exposed to it with this boyfriend, but it didn't stick because that wasn't something
yeah,
that she had like the tractor beam for.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's cool.
And
So oh, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just wondering, so people like I've noticed a lot of what happens with women when they hear about the impact of their emotional status or their environment on their baby during pregnancy, they go to guilt about that. So it's
Oh
like,
no,
oh, like, oh shit, I was in this traumatic relationship or I was whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then they go to guilt. Uh like I should be able to change this and I can't. And none of that, of course, is actually that's actually
true.
creating more of the tractor beam
Yes.
of like guilt and judgment. But I wonder if you could speak to some maybe kind of pragmatic ways to shift that if someone is in an environment right now or they themselves are kind of out of balance in this way, but resonate with what we're saying that that's what they would like to create for their child.
Well, the
Yeah.
first thing I would say, stop it and be kind to self. Any additional judgment does not create, and anything that creates dis-ease in the body from judgment has to stop, especially during pregnancy. And it's the easiest thing. I know it sounds crazy. You just have to choose not to judge you. Like waking up in the morning and being like, oh man, this is the best I have right now. It's going to get better tomorrow. It's going to get better tomorrow. And matter of fact, why not wait till, let's not wait for tomorrow. It's going to get better in a couple of minutes. Because once you start speaking that into space, the universe will find a space for that to be.
You
But
actually
it's
begin
the
to start creating a new tractor beam, a new
yes,
resonance with
exactly.
that.
But and being present. And the greatest gift that at 59 that I know right now is forgiveness of self for all my mishaps, and every single, and ask, there's my access consciousness line. How does it get better than this?
Yeah.
How does it really get better than this? Can we take a break? My battery's about to go out. Hold on just 1 second. I should have plugged this in. I forgot. Sorry about this, y'all. I
It's
thought I did
okay.
this
It
already.
happened with the last guest too, as a theme.
Just give me a second because I'm on one leg still, Michelle, because I get to take this cast off Thursday.
Congratulations.
Okay. Now I'm plugged in. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, ready?
Yeah. So as I wonder if you could speak also to, well, you were talking earlier about how in this reality, I know I would say even more perhaps in Western cultures than in many other cultures,
Yes.
we really don't have any connection to like ritual or sacredness of the womb, the divine feminine, that's just like not even part of our world. And um actually there's something I want to come back to with that, but I wondered if you were like speaking some to men, what they might be able to contribute toward their partners around, maybe she doesn't see herself as sacred space. Like what could the men be in terms of contributing to that
So,
and also honoring themselves in that?
yeah, so I think it starts with first honoring yourself. I mean, so there's a program in Portland called Sovalti, and I'm a facilitator there. It's a domestic violence. We call it a men's group because in there, my sole purpose in this group is to bring consciousness to these guys twice a month. So they have a curriculum of domestic violence that they deal with. The other times when I come in, I teach consciousness of all sorts. And one of the things that we say at the end of every group, hold yourself, so gentlemen, hold yourselves as kings. And during the beginning of the class, we talk about what is it to be a king, a true king, not a king that this reality has created, but a king of how do you honor yourself and honor everybody around you? How do you start to hold space for yourself so you can be present with somebody else?
Wow.
And Tim Logan and the other facilitators and myself, really, it's sacred. I mean, and we don't get it right. We're not telling them they have to get it right, but we do ask them to spend time for themselves. And it's kind of ironic in Multnomah County in Portland, government entities don't realize how we can do this and be so successful. So many men, our recidivism percentage is so low that they keep coming in. POs to come in and try to listen to what we're saying, but they get blown away because we didn't make it a domestic violence group. They come and learn about how to be better men, but we make it about manhood. And a lot of men did not get the information. If the mom didn't get it from her mom, she certainly couldn't give it to her son. So once you get it when you get it, as my brother Gary Douglas would say. So I agree with that 100%. That one of the things my primary desire in this group is to allow men to love up on themselves, because once you love you, everything else will flow much easily, because you don't have to be in judgment. You can be an allowance, having a conversation that if your wife is pregnant and you come home and she's pregnant, what can you do to relieve the pressure? You know what it's like to live in the world or on the world. So what can you do to create a different space? And when do you not have to be embarrassed by it because of what other men might say? Fuck them. Choose what you know to be light for you that will create a space for you and that child and your partner. And I think that and sometimes I get emotional by it because it's so fucking easy. You have to choose it. And sometimes that means you go against the grain.
Yeah.
And we live in a reality that's so fucked up to try to make everybody be the same, and that you have to do what somebody else did before, instead of really honoring the uniqueness of who you truly be and how that could actually cater to somebody else's growth. There's something about there is a line in a song by one of my favorite musical artists, Michael Franti, where he says in one of his songs, every single soul is a poem in the palm of God's hand.
Wow. Every single soul
is a poem in the palm of God's hand.
Wow. Can you, I just perceive the difference if every single person saw themselves through that lens.
Yes.
To start with. And then from that was then able to see their partner, their children, yes, their babies born and unborn, yes, future, past, present, yes, through that of this person is a poem in the palm of God's hand. Yes. Now what choices can I have? Now who, yes, can I be?
Yeah. What type of world would we have if we knew that? If we truly knew that, not believed in it, but if we truly knew that, what would that create?
Yes.
How would we speak to each other? Will we still have this issue with race and gender? See, there is a oneness that floats through the universe that's beckoning us to join it. And it's not going to stop But it surely is not going to judge you if you don't jump on. But living would be so much sweeter.
So I'm going to give anyone listening to this a little bit of home play. We like to, in Access Consciousness, we like to call it home play, not homework.
Yes.
Who wants more work to do, but home play.
Yes, yeah.
From wherever you're at, we were talking earlier about just stop it in terms of the guilt, the self-judgment. Just from wherever you're at, write that down somewhere. Every single person, and you could even add in, including me, including yourself, is a poem in the palm of God's hand. When you wake up in the morning, put on a post-it on the mirror where you brush your teeth, so you can see that a few times a day, and just see what that creates in your world. To start regarding yourself, to start with, and start regarding yourself with that. And if you don't know how, if that seems impossible, if you can't see the poetry in yourself, just start to ask. Okay, I don't see that in myself. I'm like, I must be like the worst little shitty non-rhyming crap poem in the universe. Nobody wants to read my poem. Okay, if that's your point of view, not a problem. But just begin to ask, okay, but if I was to see myself as a poem in the palm of God's hand, what would I choose? And if I don't know how, what would it take for me to see myself through that lens? I like to imagine, it helps me when I can kind of imagine something. So imagine your poem in God's hand, glasses, and put them on. This is like, I'm putting on my poem glasses, and how does the world look different? How does my partner look different? How does my boss at work, my judgy mother-in-law, my kid, what do I see as a difference? And I'm not saying that because someone is a poem, you have to put up with their shit and let them walk all over you, but it just changes that perception. And when you change that perception, and especially if you change your perception of yourself, you will see different choices for how to relate with the world. And it certainly makes it easier to create that womb space of honoring. And I just got how even once our children are born, we're still creating a womb space for a long time. They often talk about the fourth trimester. For a long time, we're still creating this space in which they are growing, evolving. And so even if your children are already born, if you work from that honoring of the poem you be and the poem they be, what space would you create?
Yeah.
And what future would you create, right?
Yeah. That changes everything.
It changes everything.
One choice creates multiple choices, that creates multiple choices, which creates possibilities. I love that.
And as you say, it's really quite simple.
Yeah.
Not always easy, but quite simple. So if you found this podcast today, there might just be something in this journey that would allow you to have the ease of living that you've been asking for. Yeah. The ease of being you that you've been asking for. Thank you so much, John, for being with us today. You are a creator, a being of motherfucking magnitude, and I am so grateful to have you in my life. Listeners, if there was anything in this that you heard today that sparked your curiosity, that lit you up, or kind of made you a little bit uncomfortable, I would highly recommend you visit John at his website, which is beingjohnashford.com, and see what he's got going on. He's always got classes that, I can't tell you how many times that I've seen something that he's created, a class of his will come up in my social media feed, and it's just electric. It's like my eyes go to it and I can't look away. And sometimes I think, well, I don't really know what that has to do with me, but it ends up having everything to do with me. So
thank you, sister.
Check it out. Hey, Mama, are you curious about something you heard today? For more resources from this episode, check the Calmer Mom podcast show notes. And if you know that easier pregnancy and birth and joyful, confident motherhood are possible, but everyone is telling you you're crazy to think so, schedule a free chat with me or discover more Calmer Mom resources at calmermom.solutions. You got this, Mama, more than you think you do. and I'm here to help. Thanks for listening.